Welcome to the 7th episode of the Skills Factory. Talks and ideas about skills from Europe and beyond. This is the podcast series done by the European Training Foundation, European Union agency working on the topic of human capital development in the EU neighboring countries. Alan de Hayes, head of ADECO Group, noted that 85% of jobs that we will do in 2030 are yet to be invented. And reskilling and upskilling of workers is indispensable. And that's when lifelong learning concept kicks in. So what is it, and why do we all have to become lifelong learners? I'm Marie Lvova, and let's start. And today I'd like to introduce our guest to talk about this topic. Nina Pulkkinen, a lifelong learner from Finland. Hi, Nina.
Hello.
And Anni Kartunen, expert in education and training from Finland. Hello, Anni.
Hi, good to see you all.
Great to have you, ladies. So my first question will be to Nina. Nina, you're a perfect example of a lifelong learning. Could you please tell us your story briefly? For how many years have you studied and how many professions have you tried in your life? Nina.
Okay. Well, in Finland, kids normally go to school at the age of 7, and so did I. I was 16 years old when I finished compulsory school and then went to high school for 4 years. It normally takes 3 years, but for me it took an extra year because I went as an exchange student to Australia. And after that year, my love for the English language just grew bigger, and I got into the University of Eastern Finland to study languages, English and Swedish. And I wasn't really sure what I want to be when I grow up. I am a bit ashamed to say this, but it took me 14 years to graduate from the university. And during my university years, I moved backwards in the Finnish educational system, and I signed in an adult education college, a bit like community college. And I went there to learn bookkeeping, basic marketing, and about sales, because I thought that it would be beneficial for me to find work easier later on. And I was also working as a substitute English teacher for a year. And after that, I was working at a fast food place. I was cooking and serving fast food to earn some money for living. And during one summer, I didn't get a job. So I studied adult education to be able to live on the student benefit money. At the same time, I was growing up, and I can say that I was quite an insecure young adult. I really had no idea where to aim at in my life, but I knew that I have to go forward to find something and hopefully find a purpose. And studying and life in general was quite hard because of my undiagnosed ADHD. And of course, as a student, I had some financial problems. And I thought that I would become a translator, English language translator. But in the end, many years later, I became a special needs education teacher. First, I studied to become a teacher, and after that, I went and continued to become a special needs education teacher. And if I think my life in numbers, I must say that I have lived on this planet for 50 years now. And if thinking about formal learning, I could say that I've studied for 35 years.
That's a hell of a lot, Nina.
Yeah.
So congratulations with this benchmark.
Okay, thank you. And I have worked about 32 years because I have 2 kids born in 2004 and 2005. So I stayed at home with them for 2 years. And I have tried more than 10 occupations, from a cleaning lady to an activity center director for unemployed people. And I have worked in many, many fields: sales, customer service, food and grocery industry, national and EU projects for sustainable development. I've done cleaning, and I've worked in education and in teaching.
Nina, how did you manage to keep up the motivation to keep on learning? Because it was not easy because of your challenges, and
Mhm.
how one can find this motivation.
Uh, it made me feel really good when I learned a new skill, and more importantly, um, when I met teachers who gave me positive feedback. That was something, because I had always thought that, like, I'm a stupid girl and who always, like, is left behind. But then when I got, like, positive feedback, it really, I started just wanting more. And I suppose that was one of the key factors, really.
Uh,
So I can say that, like, the role of the teachers, it can be huge.
so you get a teacher on your road that would advise you always where to go and what to study, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Annie, you work with a lot of education and training systems worldwide.
Mhm.
Do you think in the close future we all have to become lifelong learners in order to stay relevant in the job market?
Well, actually, this is a very complicated question in terms of that we are always lifelong learners, because 85% of all the learning that happens to us during our lifetime is actually outside the formal education system. So if you want it or not, we are learning every day. And I look at all the different forms of learning as equal. Formal learning, of course, it gives you basis for all types of different skills and skill sets in a formal setting. But then what makes us really individuals and achievers in working life, for example, it's the learning that occurs in the society, in working life, in non-formal learning, etc., etc. But obviously, today's working market, the job market, it's so volatile and it evolves so quickly that if you want to achieve something in life, uh, it's an easier path for you if you do engage yourself in some sort of systematic way of learning.
Do
And
you,
also to nowadays, the learning possibilities are basically limitless because of the internet. You've got all sorts of training courses from higher education to whatever you want online. So you just have to put your mind into it in a way.
do you think we are all born lifelong learners, or we have to develop a certain mind skit to become real lifelong learners?
Mm, I think it's hmm. The society actually can feed you this sort of culture in a way, a cultural base. So as you said, that I have been working in many countries, and I've noticed that not in all countries there is a culture for learning, especially at a later age. And this is something that should be encouraged. And I think young people, especially, should demand their politicians to encourage this kind of learning environment where learning is possible even at a later stage. Obviously, in some cases, even if there is a possibility for learning, lifelong learning at a later stage, um, if there is no learning culture, if people don't see or feel the benefits of learning in their personal lives, then it's a lost cause. But I think it's also a matter of the training providers thinking what is actually needed, and not only like, okay, I'm going to provide this course because I think, as a learning provider, I think this is important. But there should be constant communication with the stakeholders, with the working life, with the actual customers, the adult learners, for example. What is your need?
Nina, a question. When you were changing professions and going through these years and years of learning, were you considering the relevance of a skill to be acquired at the labor market, or you were just learning something new because you liked it?
I suppose that like at first when I really got into sort of like studying, I did it because I thought like I could have something for myself. But then later on, when I got a bit older, I realized that like I can possibly stay in the labor market longer if I sort of learn new skills, also those skills that the young students, the young workers already know. So I was trying to like improve my working skills and learn things that I needed in work that I didn't know already.
And Nina, and how did you get the information about what skills are new ones and what skills you want to get in order to stay relevant? Was it your intuition or you were asking someone?
I was talking to people, and like when I was working in a like a certain place, I always kept my ears and eyes open, and I tried to understand how other people work and with what types of questions they struggle, and I learned to evaluate myself. I learned to be objective about my own skills, and I gave credit to myself in those situations where I knew that I was qualified and they made me feel like professional. But then there were some areas that I knew that I could be a lot better in this if I learned a few new skills, and that motivated me to go and learn more.
Annie, okay, you both are coming from Finland, and Finland is well known as a country that has one of the best education systems in the world. But not only that, in Finland there is a really lifelong learning system which allows you, which gives you an access to a learning during your whole life. But what about other countries? What do you think are the difficulties that youngsters have at the moment of picking a skill to learn or going further in the education system?
Yeah, in some countries where I've worked, I've noticed that you have to pick your path when you're very young. And if it somehow appears to be a wrong path where you're not motivated or interested and you drop out, it's really, really difficult to get back into the system, into the learning system. Also to like many of us, when we're young, when we're teenagers, we maybe just take the wrong path and we drop out of school because of personal problems or whatever problems in our family, financial problems, different kinds of things, and we drop out because of those. And still in many countries there is no easy way back into the learning path. So I think this is something, it's almost like it should be, in my opinion, it should be like a right of a human right to finish your education and have different paths for developing yourself. And it's I think it's kind of horrible to talk about money in this context, but it is so important that also the decision makers, the politicians who make these decisions and deal out the money to education or whatever, that they understand that every single cent or euro or whatever the currency is that you're using in your country comes back approximately triple to the society. So if the individuals thrive and they're empowered and they learn new skills constantly, not only like in high school or in vocational education and training.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in Finland, all education is absolutely free of charge, correct?
Well, not absolutely free of charge. There are some handling fees and stuff like that, but relatively cheap, let's put it this way. For example, we have a massive network of adult learning centers that are not in the formal system. That is really like mostly it's for adults. We have about 200 of them all over the country. And they teach everything from languages to IT skills to cooking to, all sorts of short courses, short programs. And there are over 1 million people every year who attend those courses. So it's the biggest education provider in the whole country. And basically, usually the courses they can cost you like 10 euros, or or just the material if it's something like a handicraft course or something like that. So you may have to purchase the materials. Basic education training is always free. And now we have a new law beginning of this year or August, where the compulsory education it lasts until you're 18 years old. And this means that high school books and vet materials, they will also be completely free of charge.
Vocational education training
Yes.
books, you mean?
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
Yes. And a university as such, it doesn't, there are no university fees, but of course there are other expenses, like you have to buy books and stuff like that. But the education as such is free.
Another question, because in a lot of countries, the first choice of education after compulsory education is a university, higher education.
Yeah.
It is considered to be the most prestigious, the one that will allow you to get a better job. But Nina, I understood that you went actually backwards. You did a higher education and then you get back to vocational education. You haven't seen it as a downshift in your career?
No, never. It's like, well, I appreciate education, but like if we are thinking about university, it is at some points very theoretical, and you just have to learn about some theories. But then, like for example, like people with ADHD, they might benefit from different type of learning, like where they can use their hands instead of their brain all the time. So I think that it is excellent that you can both like have university degree and then go back and learn more like vocational qualifications, because they support each other and that they make a perfect package. Like different types of education, it's needed. And so no, I never felt that like that I myself was like downshifting in my life.
Nina, in the choice of the education pathway, I think one of the most important advisors are in our life are our parents, and which could be good and a bad, because we take the prejudices from our parents and we bring them along with ourselves. So what happened in your case? Did you get your parents who advised you all along the way, or you were taking decisions yourself?
Of course, I got advice all the time. I still get advice from my parents. Um, the reason why I signed into a university was because, like, I had no other chance. It was like uh, I I was told that all the people who can read and write go to university, because that's what my parents wanted. So of course I didn't criticize them back then, and yeah, I went to university. And then I suppose that what has really affected me as a lifelong learner is my mother. Uh, she quit working at the age of 75 or something like that, because like she was a poor girl and she didn't have a possibility to study at the young age. And she was more than 30 years old when she started like serious studying. And then she became a nurse and a mental health nurse and whatever. And I suppose she was a bit of an example for me, because I just like saw in her that like she got happier and happier about herself like all the time. She just kept moving forwards, and I suppose uh, it was a huge effect on me from her.
Nina, but you are now a mother yourself and a
Mm-hmm.
mother of teenagers practically
Mm-hmm.
that would need to take a decision about where to go.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give them?
I have told them, and I will tell them, that please follow your heart. Well, I can see in my daughters that they are very different. One of them is very academic, and the other one is really like going to choose the vocational path. And I'm really happy for them that they are different, and that the system is open for both of them. You don't have to be an academic person in this country, and hopefully people have those possibilities worldwide.
So you are completely fine with one of your kids doing vocational education rather than higher
Yes,
education.
yes, I'm very happy for her.
Annie, how difficult it is to find a job after vocational education in Finland?
Well, it depends, of course, on how the economy is going, but practically, I think over the past 10 years, I think academics have had quite a lot of problems actually finding a job, and it's been easier on the vet from people who have a vocational education training degree or a qualification to find a job. And actually, just yesterday, a report was published, and I was reading it, that in many Finnish vocational professions, people earn more money than people who have an academic degree. So I think also this, because we have really strong unions in Finland, trade unions, that have over the years, over the decades, negotiated the salaries quite high in the performing sector, sort of, and not the academic sector. So I think this is also a big motivator in Finland to carry out a vocational career, because you actually get more money than having a higher education degree, and also you study a shorter time, so you don't have to take that much loan, for example, to study if you have a shorter study path.
Yeah, again, Finland is an amazing example. But when we think about countries neighboring European Union,
Mm,
I think there is a big issue with the reputation of vocational education. And
yeah.
in a lot of those countries, when you say vocational education, first thing that people can think is a plumber,
Mm,
something of a previous century. While a software engineer could be easily a
yeah,
vocational education person.
absolutely.
So what do you think is there a recipe to improve this reputation?
Yeah, we had. I remember when I was in school still, and we have to make these choices whether to take the vocational path or the academic path in a way. I remember we had the exactly same attitudes that, all the people who are in vocational education, or who go to vocational education and training, they are a little bit illiterate or stupid, or, they don't do well in life. And then maybe 15, 20 years ago, we started these big programs with companies, with businesses in Finland that started promoting their sort of field in schools. You go to vocational education and training, you still have access to higher education after that if you want. So it's not the dead end, and that is a big thing. And also, of course, we have put a lot of effort in the quality issues in vocational education and training as well. And the teachers who are teaching there, like Nina, for example, have to be really qualified. So it's um, you know it's not that not anybody can just go there and teach. If you're a welder, you can't just go and start teaching, but you really have to have that sort of highest degree of that particular area so that you can have a permanent teacher's position. So it's also about those factors that make it interesting, because teachers are really good normally.
Nina, in the usual timeline that I think a lot of people have pre-established in the back of their minds, we do the compulsory education because it's compulsory, and then we get to a point when we have to decide about the pathway. But is this decision that important actually nowadays? Because you are the perfect example that you can decide to go one way, then try another one. So it's not that definite, this decision, right? You know?
Exactly. Um, what I tell to my students is that don't worry, you are just taking a step forward, and you don't have to know where you're going to be in 10 years' time. You don't have to know that where you work and which profession and whatever. Just keep moving on, and just take steps on your path. Do not worry. That's what I think, and that what and I have seen it happening. I have felt it.
Nina, what were the key success factors that allowed you to be a lifelong learner and to keep on learning during these 35 years?
Mhm. The key factors, well, uh, I suppose I have to say that the positive feedback, it gave me strength. And then also, uh, when I noticed that I'm learning something that is beneficial for myself, and it helped me to learn to think. Because um, I don't know if it sounds weird, but um, it really like taught me to take other people's ideas into consideration, and it made me understand that other people also have the same kinds of problems as I had, and like that we all struggle somehow, and life isn't just like a piece of cake. And and it made me realize, it made me understand uh, world and people, and mm, I suppose this sounds like a true cliche, but it really made me a better person, and that's just like pushed me forward.
Annie, what would you advise to people that are listening to us right now? How to become a lifelong learner?
First of all, you have to find the passion inside of you, what really motivates you. Um, Whether it's vocational education or training, or whatever it is. And the field of learning is so vast nowadays. There are so many opportunities that it's really up to you to grab it. So just grab the opportunities that are there. If you need help, go and ask for help. That in most countries there are some sort of guidance counselors, either in the employment services or in the formal education services, that can give you a hand. Um, Also, the world of internet is really interesting if you just go and check out what kind of learning you can do there. But I do understand that sometimes it feels a bit like you're locked in a system where you don't have like automatic paths into learning. But don't give up, because learning happens everywhere, and you just have to learn how to make your own learning visible. For example, if you're looking for a job, it's not so easy to tell your own skills and competencies. So this is the big skill that you need to learn, how to express and how to put words into your own sort of skills, and all the learning that you've done, not only at school, but in life. And this is really important as well to remember.
Thanks a lot for these very interesting insight and very motivational messages. And I think at this point we'll wrap up this episode. I would like to thank Nina Pulkkinen, a lifelong learning with 35 years of experience from Finland. Thanks a lot, Nina.
Thank you very much.
And I would like to thank Annie Kartunen, expert in education and training from Finland. Thanks a lot, Annie.
Thanks. It was great to be here.
Thanks a lot to everyone. Follow Skills Factory on all platforms and stay tuned because there is much more to come. Thank you.